Might I add, I just saw a leopard, or not saw, I just heard a leopard purring.
Awesome.
They purr.
That's neat, but that's not what we're here to talk about today.
It was super cool, though. Okay. You told me a freaking hilarious encounter you had, or not encounter, but a freaking hilarious experience you had.
Yes.
The other day.
And I don't know if we're gonna air the other podcasts where we talk about how you and I are never into the same shows at the same time. But it's happened twice now. 3 times now, actually. I recently started watching Forged in Fire.
Forged in Fire.
Obviously, I don't watch it that much. But I started watching Forged in Fire.
And that's like me and Dad's show.
Yes. And I like it.
No, you don't.
No,
you don't understand.
I do. I'm learning a lot. But what fascinates me about this show...
It's just Chopped with knives.
No. There's a difference. Because in Chopped, all of the judges at least have some kind of, like, similar background. They all have a cookbook, or they all have, like, a, you know... They run a restaurant, or they cook. Like, they all have a background in this. Now, I hopped into an episode of Forged in Fire before or after they had introduced the panel of judges. And so I was very confused why they had, like
an entire RPG group.
Yes.
Serving as the judges.
They all look like, I don't know, you got, like, Colonel Sanders. You've got some guy's dad. You've got, like, I don't know.
Doug Marcaida.
What is his name? It's not Will Willis, is it? Is his name Will Willis?
I don't...
What is his name? The guy that looks wet all the time. and I can't get a feel for his style because he always wears, like, really snappy button-downs. But, like, Converse shoes. We're totally off topic here.
No, keep going. That's hilarious.
I don't... but, like, they're the weird... No, like... They're the most, like, motley crew looking bunch.
Will Willis, yes.
Okay.
It's Doug Marcaida, Will Willis, Jay Nelson, Ben Abbott, and Jason Knight.
Jason Knight, and he's on the show.
It's spelled that way too.
That's awesome. But these shows, and I'm talking Chopped, I'm talking Guys Grocery Games, I'm talking Forged in Fire. Just the concept. But I mean, like, cooking shows are a thing. But they're picking really specific, like, hobbies and turning that into a show. So that's, like, one of, like, the kickers for me with Forged in Fire is just, first of all, what a concept. Then what a group of judges.
I like the judges.
And then you get some of the weirdest looking, like...
They had a dude bro on the show.
They've had a ton of dude bros on the show, but then sometimes you get, like, this plunky 19-year-old who's like, yeah, I've been making knives for all of, like, 2 weeks now, and I think I could be the champion. But it's gotten to a point where, like, and I'm engaged to a welder, so I know some of these things when I watch. But it's like, what a concept. Like, who sat down and was like, what are there a lot of in the world? I got it. Bladesmiths. Let's turn that into a show.
I just loved you finding out that there was, like, a what was it? It wasn't the historians group you found out about, but it was, like, not the knife enthusiasts, but there was some group that's, like, existed for years, and you're like, that's an actual thing.
Not the National Bureau of Knives, but it's something like the American. Anyway, they're like a group of people. Man, now I feel like an asshole because I feel like I should know this.
They like knives.
I'm not, and I don't mean, like, any disrespect. It's just I can't think of, like, the name right now.
And I think what's more entertaining than the actual show itself is just, like, your complete and utter confusion and fascination with it.
No, that was the other thing, was, like, the test that they subject these knives to. It's you'll have an episode where they're like, Smiths will be testing your blade on the double whammy hoop chop. And it's like, I'm like, is this like a legitimate like test that
we will be smashing your blades with a rock?
But it's like, is this a legitimate test that like that group of knife people subject these knives to? Or is this something they came up with for the show? And the contestant will go, I was hoping they weren't gonna do this test. I was really hoping. I was hoping they weren't gonna do the double sailor knot wolf jump. And it's like, how often do they do that on this show that you're concerned about it?
Oh I just love
like crying
the episode with like, we will be subjecting your blade to the bone test. Remember, this isn't, and that's an actual test, but we'll be subjecting your blade to the bone test. And remember, Smiths, it is not about what your knife will do to this bone. It is about what the bone will do to your knife. And I just, your look of complete and utter confusion over it.
Well, it's like, you know, on Chopped, it's very straightforward. They taste the food. Either the food tastes good or it doesn't.
Well, but then in this show, it's still that. It's, you know, either your knife is no good or it is.
But, like, when I think knife, I think, like, sharp and doesn't explode on impact, and that should just be a given. But some of these guys are on there like, I made my knife to be strong. I didn't make it to be sharp. What? Like, there's a whole division, like the sharpness test. How did you not consider?
There was one episode that actually really pissed me and Dad off yet. It really pissed the two of us off, and I'm not sure if you've seen it yet. But it was an episode where, I mean, you go back and you'll hear, like, the parameters, and they're like, Smiths, you must reconstruct this iconic, historic weapon. And it must be 36 inches long by 1 inch. And the guy comes in with a 36-inch long blade by 1 inch. And they're like, oh, your blade was supposed to be 79 inches. Your blade did not make the cut. And it's like, but wait a minute, we heard you say 36 inches. He did 36 inches. And now it's just... Some of the, like, reasons why their blade did not make the cut are stupid.
Now wait, blade exploding on impact? Yes, reason to be chopped, not chopped. What do they say? Leave the forge. Cut?
No.
Keeled,
no.
Can we talk about that too?
Your blade did not make the cut.
Yeah, it's not the kill test, it's the keel test, which I guess stands for keep everyone alive. Which I think was something that Doug Marcaida came up with.
You know for a fact that's something Doug Marcaida came up with. You looked it up.
Yes, I did.
Like, you weren't even watching the episode as it went on.
I was curious. I wanted to know who these RPG people were that were judging the blade.
It was like an elf and a bard.
I know. Like you could assign them all a role, like a D&D role. They all fit one. But it's the keel test. But what drives me nuts, and I think by the time this podcast airs, it'll be mentioned I've only got one good ear. So we do use the subtitles, and it always pops up as the kill test. And it's like, I know it's the keel test. I looked it up. But now I'm starting to think, like, did I actually look that up? Is that, like, a thing that's been explained? Or
you did. You showed it to me.
Is this something that, like, I misheard it, and then I looked up some kind of, what's that called? The Mandela effect?
Mandela.
Yeah.
Mendoza?
I don't know. All I know is that it's definitely one of the more, like, interesting shows that we've watched together. I will say that.
And I'm glad that we can, like, watch shit together.
Wait, you forge, don't you? You forge.
Yeah.
You bladesmith or whatever it is that you do. I mean, it's not like this is something that, like, I would pick up and do. But I'm interested. Like, I know a lot. I know what a tang is now. It's not just a 90s drink mix. It's part of a knife.
Which part of the knife?
The part that goes in the handle. Am I right?
I suppose.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's like the only term I picked up, but
why? And you were misresearched though. You kind of.
I am. But I don't know. I think my hope was that, like, if I watched enough episodes, I would start to kind of understand what was going on. Same with, like, the cast. Like, eventually somebody would explain to us, like, what their credentials were.
They do it. They do explain.
I know. Like I said, I hopped in, like, after they introduced everyone. So I was just like, who are all these people? And what do they do?
They're blade specialists. They say in the beginning, quickly. You're the type of person that's like, let's skip the introduction. You're like, we'll be watching, like...
I just want to see what happens to the blade. I don't care.
We'll be watching, like, What Not to Wear, or, like, whatever the other show, Project Runway, and you're like, oh, let's skip it, and then, like, something important will come up.
I miss pertinent information.
You miss very pertinent information. It's always, like, we'll go back to the point in which you started, like, fast-forwarding, and that's when they said it.
Yeah, no, I'm terrible. You just need to stop watching shows with me.
Yeah, like, what was it? The one episode where, like, it was Master and Apprentice, and
now I'm thinking of Wizards.
The one apprentice, like, his master couldn't continue the show, and, like, they said why he couldn't continue the show, and you just skipped right over that.
I missed it by, like, 5 minutes.
And I'm like, well, where the hell? And I had looked up by then. I'm like, where the hell did the other guy go? And you're like, oh, apparently, like, he left the show or something. I don't know why. And it was important.
I think I actually looked that up and then figured out what the Keel test was.
Yeah, so. You actually had to look it up, and yet they, like, said it. It was important to the show.
What can I say? I enjoy watching it. I don't understand it, though.
You just like the pretty pictures.
Yes.